I've always found writing really tricky, getting my thoughts down on paper. I was diagnosed as a dyslexic in primary school, and ever since then, making sure that my spelling is correct, that grammar is in the right place, and that I put all my capital letters where they should be, has always been a bit difficult. In fact, this was most evident in my first year of university, where all of my modules were based on essays that I would write. No matter how much time I put into making sure that everything looked how I thought it should, I would always just scrape through because of these things. It would always be commented on. What made it worse is that I would have friends who would just start the night before, manage to get it done in a ridiculously short amount of time, and they would always get better marks than I did. And I can remember just thinking, this is so unfair, you so don't deserve this, and I don't deserve this just isn't right. A few years down the line though, on my last year of university, I can remember that things started to click into place a little bit more. In fact, there were even some times where I knew that I could just wait up until the deadline and quickly get essays sorted and hand them in just in time. And that's what I did. I often started essays the night before they were due in. There were even some occasions where I was able to get better marks than other friends and other people that I knew. And it was funny, in those moments, I cared far less about what I deserved. You see, karma, or getting what you deserve, matters far less when it's about you. We actually quite like it though when we talk about getting other people getting what they deserve. I mean, whether it's a politician who's committed hypocrisy, or whether it's a criminal being caught for something that they've done, someone getting caught out, or whether it's a footballer who's dived in the box and got a yellow card, we love it when what goes around comes around for other people. Likewise, we quite like karma when good things happen to good people. I mean, we all consider ourselves good people, and good things come to those who wait, and you deserve what you get when you work hard and all of that. We kind of like karma when it works for us. Many of us even perhaps have bought into this with a childish view of faith. Maybe when you grew up, you were taught, or at least led to buy into this idea that God would reward good people and that he would punish bad people. Maybe even your faith suffered as a result because you got to a point where you thought, well, why doesn't God reward this person? Or why doesn't God reward me? Or why doesn't God sort out that person, or stop that person, or get revenge on them? But here's the thing. Jesus never said you get what you deserve. Jesus never said that. In fact, we're going to find out that Jesus said something far, far better in a story that I think is absolutely beautiful. You can find it in a book called John, which was an account of Jesus written by a man called John. And in chapter 4, we have this account of Jesus meeting a woman at a well. It starts like this. Jesus had to go through Samaria on the way. Eventually he came to the Samaritan village of Sychar, near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired from his long walk, sat wearily by the well about noontime. Soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Please give me a drink." A few things that it's worth noting about wells. First of all, it was a place of nourishment. This would have been a really important part for this community. Secondly, it was a place of socializing. Women would often travel together at the cool of the day in order to get the water that they needed together. And finally, it was actually a place of romance. We even have a few different occasions within the Bible where men would often try and meet women at the well, because that's where they knew they would be. But there was a couple of significant things about this well. First of all, it was located in Samaria. Now, the Samaritans and the Jewish people absolutely detested one another. I mean, they were at each other's throats. The Jewish people, we have records of them saying that they would value the life of a dog over the life of a Samaritan. And in turn, the Samaritans, there's accounts of how they got bones and put them in the temple during the Jewish Passover, something that would have completely disrupted the festival, something that would have not just been gross, but had deeply religious significances to it as well. It was such the case that because Samaria was in between Galilee, where a lot of Jewish people lived, and Jerusalem, which was obviously a place of deep significance, that Jewish people would often travel on an extra day or two's walk in order that they wouldn't have to step foot in Samaria. The other significant thing about this well is that it was Jacob's well. Now, Jacob was deeply significant for the Samaritan people. The Samaritan people were hoping for a Messiah, just like the Jewish people were, but they were hoping for this second Jacob. Jacob was the hero of their faith. And we read in Genesis 29 that this was Jacob's well. There's a story even of how he goes up to the well where a whole bunch of women are, and that's where he meets Rachel. There are a whole bunch of stories that we find outside of the Bible that would have been legend for the Samaritan people of what Jacob did at this well, where he performed miracles, causing the well to overflow in order that he could get the water that he needed. And so here is a Samaritan woman approaching by herself in the middle of the day. It was likely that she was some form of outcast. She wasn't particularly liked. I mean, if she was, then she'd be traveling with the rest of them when it wasn't so hot. And as she goes to the well, she finds Jesus sitting there, and they have this encounter. And Jesus looks at her and says, "You've got a bucket. Can you get me a drink?" And look how the Samaritan woman responds. The woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with the Samaritans. She said to Jesus, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink?" So Jesus is at this well, and he says to this woman, "You've got a bucket. Can you get me some water? I want what your bucket has to offer." But this woman goes straight to her identity. "Listen, I'm a Samaritan. You're a Jew. We should have nothing to do with one another. Why would you want anything to do with me?" And Jesus' response is fascinating. Take a look. Jesus replied, "If only you knew the gift God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me and I would give you living water. But sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket," she said. "And this well is very deep. Where would you go to get this living water? And besides, do you think that you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed?" Jesus here is chasing after this woman's heart. Regardless of her being a Samaritan and him a Jew, he's saying, "Listen, I'm chasing your heart. I want to offer you a living water. I want to offer you a redemption. I want to offer you something that no one else can offer you." And she doesn't quite get it initially, but she refers back to a story of her hero, Jacob, the hero of her culture. A story that they would have had almost maybe as a bedtime story of Jacob approaching this well. And as he sees Rachel, he lifts the stone that would have been having to be lifted off normally by maybe 3 guys, and he lifts it off by himself as this show of strength, as this miracle to show the woman that he loved. And then without a bucket, he causes the water to flow out of the well. And here is another guy at the well, sitting by it, and the stones rolled away, and he's offering water without a bucket. Maybe this woman's putting 2 and 2 together, saying, "Listen, are you trying to be Jacob or something? Like, what are you trying to do?" But Jesus continues. Jesus replied, "Anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life." Jesus is chasing after this woman's heart. "I want to give you living water, something that is going to change your life, something that's going to give you eternal life." And the woman, intrigued, and you can kind of imagine the skepticism on her face, starts to get what Jesus is offering. "Please, sir," the woman said, "give me this water, then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water." The woman, maybe cautiously, takes Jesus up on his offer. I mean, she doesn't fully get it, but she says, "You know what? Actually, I'll take what you're offering." But Jesus doesn't act in the way that we would expect him to. I mean, the Jesus that we all kind of think we'd know, if this woman said, "You know what, I want to take what you're offering me living water, I'll take it," we would expect Jesus to say, "Peace be with you, and here is the living water I offer you." We might expect Jesus to do some form of amazing miracle that causes the waters to flow out of the well like his ancestor Jacob did before him. Something that was going to wow her, something that was going to show her that he truly was the Messiah. But Jesus doesn't do that. Instead, Jesus looks at her straight in the eye and asks about perhaps the most sensitive area of her life. "Go and get your husband," Jesus told her. "But I don't have a husband," the woman replied. Jesus said, "You're right, you don't have a husband, for you've had 5 husbands, and you're not even married to the man that you're living with now, and you certainly spoke the truth." You can imagine this woman's head beginning to drop and in utter shock, recognizing that this man really is who he says he is. I mean, how could he possibly know about your deepest, darkest secret? Not only that, but the deepest, darkest secret that he decides to reveal that he knows is surely the one thing that's going to disqualify you from having the living water that previously he offered. I mean, surely now you know and he knows that you're just not worthy of the redemption that he's offering. And I don't know when it clicked for this woman, but Jesus speaks to her and says, "Listen, I'm here, and I'm not here for the Jews, and I'm not just here for the Samaritans, I'm here for everybody." And maybe it was in this moment where something clicked, but something beautiful happens. The woman left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village, telling everyone, "Come and see a man who told me everything I did. Could he possibly be the Messiah?" So the people came streaming from the village to see him. I love that she leaves her bucket behind. I love that the first thing that Jesus asks of her, to give him what's in her bucket. I want the stuff that you're carrying around. I want the stuff that you're hiding from everybody in the heat of the day. I want the stuff that feels heavy. I want the stuff that's in your bucket, because when you give me the stuff that's in your bucket, I'm able to fill it up with the living water I want to offer you. I want to offer you refreshment. I want to offer you redemption. I want to offer you peace. I want to offer you joy. If only you empty out the things that you think disqualify you. And for this woman, it's the fact that she's lived with 5 husbands and now she's living with someone who isn't even her husband. And Jesus raises that to her straight to her face, because he says, "Listen, when you're willing to give that to me, when you're willing to empty that out in front of me, I can give you what I desperately want you to have that's so much better." And we find time and time and time again, all the way through the story of Jesus, that when he approaches people and gives them things, it's never dependent on what they deserve, but instead on how he sees their value. Whether it's a blind person, a leper, someone who just touches his cloak in the crowd, who's desperate for healing. Jesus never looks at them and asks whether they deserve it or whether they've earned it. Jesus knows their true value and desperately just wants them to empty out what they have in their bucket in front of him, and so he can fill it up with the right stuff instead. Listen, Jesus never said you get what you'll deserve. Let me ask you, what's in your bucket? What's the thing that you hold on to? What's the stuff that you feel deems you unworthy? What's the stuff that you hang up your identity on? What's the thing that you feel like everybody has to see before they see you? Because Jesus, I think, says something. When you come to Jesus, one of the fundamental requirements is that you let go of what you deserve in order that you can embrace what you don't. In order that we can embrace grace. Jesus wants what's in your bucket. He wants what's in your bucket, and he wants you to embrace a worldview where you can do the same for others. Imagine a world where instead of treating others, loving others, caring for others, speaking to each other, speaking about each other, being generous towards one another, based on what you think people deserve, you do it on the basis of their unchanging, intrinsic value, the value that God has over them. Listen, when you come to Jesus, one of the fundamental requirements is that you let go of what you deserve in order that you embrace what you don't. When we approach Jesus and he's sitting next to this well on a stone that's been rolled away off the top of the well, a stone that maybe foreshadows another stone that's going to be rolled away, that represents a resurrection that makes all of this possible, he asks you to empty your bucket in front of him. of all of your stuff that you think makes you unworthy. And if you're someone who maybe now thinks, perhaps this Jesus is the real deal, maybe this Jesus is who he says he is, I want to invite you to empty your bucket in front of him now. I want to invite you to do something a little bit weird and just put the prayer hands emoji in whatever chat you're watching this video from. We have a team of people who would love to get in contact with you, to pray with you, to support you, and to encourage you. And I want to invite you to do that now, as maybe you can pray this prayer. Jesus, I believe that you are who you say you are. I believe that you have a living water, a redemption, a better life to offer me. And in turn, I want to offer you all of the things that I previously perhaps thought I was unworthy because of. But because of what you did, because of who you are, because of your death and resurrection, I can pour these things out in front of you. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so good to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99, and I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you gave yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so good to me.
we thank you. We thank you for all of the things that you give to us, that you offer to us. And God, we know in our heart, I believe we know in our heart the things that we need to let go of this morning. The story that we've told ourselves of what we deserve. I'm not good enough for this. I can't let go of that. But we know your heart for us, God, is different. We know that you have the heart of a father that stretches open his arms when we go and screw up again and again. The heart of a father that loves us so much that he sacrificed himself so that we might receive grace, love, forgiveness, redemption. So Father God, as people watch this in their homes right now, I just pray that you would work in a new way. And guys, wherever you're watching this, maybe just begin to ask God right now, how do you see me? How do you see me? And I believe that God would just want to remind us that he loves us. That even if we were the one person on planet Earth, he would not change what he's done in sending his son to die for us. He would not change his love. He would not change his purpose. God, we thank you so much for the way that you choose to interact with us, the way that you choose to have a relationship with us. Even as creator of the heavens and the earth, you choose to have a personal and intimate relationship with us. So God, right now, I pray that you would pour yourself out in a new way in our homes, God. Maybe people are watching this on their way to work. God, do a new thing. And God, I pray that we would start to see ourselves how you see us. That we would let go of what we deserve so that we can embrace what we don't deserve. That we feel we deserve, God. We decide to let that go. We decide to see ourselves in the way that you see us, God.